Basic rules of line diagrams, signal decision, action, logic functions, which is the main coverage, common control circuits, and control circuit troubleshooting. So this is where we get into our basic troubleshooting of control circuits. And we've already talked about this, right? We already got back to this. No more than one load per line. We can have a lot of loads per rung, but only one load per line. Okay, we talked about parallel, let's see, magnet motor starters. Okay. And then I think we got line numbers, wire numbers, manufacturer numbers, and then this is where we left off at, right? Okay. Basically, a control section, control is set up in, and usually I'll leave this off. When I talk about it, I talk about decision making and what action we take depending on the decision. And here they're talking about signal selection, which would be either manual, mechanical, or automatic, which would fall directly into this guy right here. Does that make sense? So what we have basically is this section can either be manual, mechanical, or automatic, but it's going to make some type of decision on when to cause an action to occur. And it depends on how we wire the contacts. So here they're showing manual controls, but these could be relay controls. These could be float switches, which would be an example of automatic control, right? Float switches, pressure switches, flow switches. These are those switches out of these devices out there that sense an action and don't require any manual intervention. But these right here would be manual, but this is decision making. So what we have is we have a symbol for a solenoid. Everybody understand what a solenoid is, right? Okay. And what we've got is we've got two push buttons. And is this a series circuit? Well, it's not a series circuit because of these. It's a series circuit because of this, right? So the control devices do not determine if the circuit is a series circuit or a parallel circuit. It's how we connect the loads. Everybody understand that? So these things are connected in the control devices, the manual control devices are connected in series. Okay. Now, what we're doing is we have what we call logic. And I could add 15 more push buttons or 3 push buttons. I couldn't add one. One does no logic. But we got to have more. We got to have 2 or more of these devices in series with each other to get the logic. If we have one normally open push button or one normally open control device actually does no logic. Okay, you understand that? So we got 5 basic logic operations. Well, we actually got 7. We got 7 logic operations we're going to talk about. Okay, we got this guy right here. We call it AND. Then we got a logic operation called OR. Then we got a logic operation we call NAND. We got a logic operation we call NOR. We got one we call NOT. Okay. Then we got what we call exclusive ORs and exclusive NOR. So there's 7 operations that we can do in a motor control.
Exclusive OR?
NOR, yeah.
So that would be EX NOR or ENOR? NOR.
Yeah, the way we abbreviate those, exclusive, of course. But wait till we get there. So it'd be a NOR. Okay, so what we know here is that when we use the term, first of all, in these logic, we got 2 terms we use a lot. It's all and any. All right, y'all understand that? So instead of saying this and this and this and this, that gets kind of complicated. And we got 15 of those. Right? You understand? But if I use the term all, so I say all these push buttons have to be pressed before that relay is energized, then that is some type of AND operation. It's either going to be an AND or it's going to be a NAND. And we'll talk about the difference here in a minute. So when I look at this, I got two pushes. So here it's not hard to say, well, I got push button 1 and push button 2 would have to be closed. Right? You understand? Well, what if I add another push button? Then I would say push button 1, push button 2, and push button 3. Well, what if I got 15 of them? Then I'd be going push button 1, and push button 2, and push button 3, and push button 4. And it's right. But I could say all the push buttons have to be made. All the contacts have to be closed, right? All the flow switches have to be made if I've got an AND operation. Does that make sense? So here, this is an AND. They're only showing push buttons, but literally how many could I have? Probably more precisely would be as many as you need. There's a lot of people that want stuff that they don't need. But we could have lots of them.
You're not like safety circuit.
Safety circuits, those would be normally closed and probably not normally open.
It's something like you have to have your hands here, close the switch
Right.
before the machine operates.
Yeah, so like when they launch nuclear bombs, rockets, they have to have two people push the button, to create an AND. And we do this all the time. Normally not with push buttons, even though, but especially in automated control systems where you have automated devices like, if the pressure's at this, if the high pressure's up here and the low pressure's down here, if both of them's okay, then we run the pump. If you don't want to trip, then we stop, right? You know what I'm saying? And that would be a type of an AND dynamic. Any questions on this? So if I use the term all, then we're talking about an AND or we're talking about a NAND. Or an AND. If I use the term all, it is some type of AND or a NAND. So this says I have to have all highs to turn this sucker on. A NAND's going to be saying, well, they all have to be closed to turn it off. So the only difference between an ANDs and NANDs and ORs and NORs is ANDs and NANDs turn stuff on. NANDs and NORs turn stuff off. Okay? Y'all understand the difference? So if I've got to press all the buttons to turn something off, right, y'all understand, then that's a NAND. If I have to press all the buttons to turn something on, then that's an AND. And that's the only difference. So now y'all go. It's pretty...
ANDs turn things off.
ANDs and ORs turn stuff off. NANDs and NORs turn... I'm sorry, I said that wrong. ANDs and ORs turns things on. NANDs and NORs turns things off. That makes sense?
ANDs and ORs on.
On.
NANDs and NOTs and NORs.
No, NOTs too, but we're talking about, NOTs turns things off. So as soon as I say in front of the word, that turns things off. So NOTs, NANDs, and NORs turns things off. So thank you. ANDs and ORs turn things off. On. Now exclusive ORs, these are decision makers. These are comparators, and we'll have to look at that when we get there. Are you okay? So if I press these two buttons, this guy here is going to be energized.
Yeah.
Whether it's a relay, whether it's a solenoid, whether it's a light bulb, right? Y'all understand that?
You're just going to get power through the circuit.
To the load. It'll apply power to the load, whatever the load might be. And the small motors, it actually might be a small motor. So it could be several. Everybody okay? So as soon as we say all, and that's true, by the way, in digital. If you're taking digital during the day, if we say all, then we're talking about ands, nands. If we say any, then we're talking about nands, nors, and nots. But to get an and or to get an or, you got to have at least two. Everybody understand that? Ands, ors, and nors, we have to have at least two control devices. But the book says, and that's what the books do, I call this decision making. They say, well, the devices could be what? They could either be manual, they could be automatic, or mechanical. Are we okay? Everybody okay on the and? Any questions? Now notice here, I'm going to use the term any. In OR logic, the load is on if any one of the control device signal contact is closed. Now don't get this into your head if things are in parallel as OR, because that's going to screw you up. Okay, y'all understand? But how many of these devices can and we have that happen all the time where people pick up on this connection and they say if they see devices hooked in parallel, they want to call it OR. So how many of these devices can I put? Is that still an OR?
Yeah.
But it's got to be normally open devices, right? You understand? All these devices have to be normally open to get an OR. But here I say if any one of these switches is closed, this heating element would be energized. If any one of them, right? Everybody understand that?
So just as agreed.
Huh?
It's just as agreed.
Just as a rig there. But what I'm trying to get across is just using those terms. You know, so if I'm looking at a diagram, I say, well, if any of these close, then that thing, well, that's OR, right? You understand? It's just,
on that circuit right there, the push button would be momentarily, and the temperature switch would do it until.
well, it would be moment. Yeah, but it's still an OR. The devices that does the control can be either automated, right, which with the temperature switch would be automatic, right, or it could be manual. Or it could be mechanical, like a limit switch is what they're talking about there. Or a solid state proximity switch. Of course, I just lost points. I did the dot there, I just didn't get there. Y'all don't see my dot right there. Everybody okay on ORs? Yes, no? And we'll see. The decision section of any circuit can contain more than one logic. So they say we can have combined logic within a ROM. So here, the pressure switch and the flow switch, the pressure switch and the flow switch that's a what logic? It actually says and. And then the foot switch and the push button are OR. So yeah, we combine logic inside diagrams all the time. Everybody okay? Yes, no?
Yes.
Okay. Now when I move into my normally closed switches, so ands and ORs are normally open. Nots, nands, and nors, we're going to start dealing with normally closed switches. Okay. As soon as I move into the ones that start with N, we're talking about what's required to turn the load off. So as soon as I throw power across L1 and L2, this light bulb and this solenoid will both be energized. Don't understand. If I press that button right there, it's going to drop out. The loads are going to turn off. I've only got one push button, so this is a NOT. So the NOT is the only logic that consists of one push button, or one thing in series. Okay, y'all understand that? Yay, nay? So this is a NOT. In NOT logic, the load is on only when the control contacts are closed. But the best thing to remember is NOTs, NANDs, and NORs will turn the loads off. ANDs and ORs will turn it on. Very easy, right? Not complicated at all. So this is a NOT. Now this is what gets people screwed, because over there on the and, I hook all these buttons up in series, but they're all normally open. Here them suckers are hooked up in series, but they're no longer normally open, they're normally closed. Now what I use to turn that load off, would I use the term any or would you use the term off? Any. Any. If I press any of those buttons, the load will turn off. As soon as I say any, I'm talking about either a and, I'm talking about either an or an or. So anyone will turn it off. So what does this got? This is a NOR. Y'all understand that? But the problem is people pick up on the and they see these devices in series and next time they see devices in series, for some reason, people want to call this an and too. But it's not, it's a NOR. So you're right. So as soon as I look at a diagram and I use the term any, but over here, the start button, PD4 and M1, this is a what? That's a OR. You're right, it's a set, but it's an OR service. And that's what makes it a ceiling, because it says either the push button press or that contact is closed and the guy will be energized. Right? This would be a permissive circuit right here. Everybody okay? Now this is the next one is what people mess up on is this guy right here. Now here we got a lot of logic. Now notice these two float switches, they're in parallel, right? So let's say all this circuit down through here is made up. Okay. What would we say here? So they're normally closed. So what would I do to turn that load off as far as the float switches go?
You have to pick both of them.
Don't say both. Oh. Oh. And what we could do is just isolate this. So what we're saying is, so I could come over here in the control circuit, and these could be normally open push buttons. It don't make any difference. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to come over here and just put a light bulb out here. That makes it pretty easy, right? Okay. And if I come up here and do this, those are supposed to touch, by the way. And I do this. And what would be required to turn the light off? All. Not any, all. They're normally, yeah, they're all normally closed. By the way, sometimes it gets hard. And this is what you need. If it's above, it's normally open on push buttons. If the line is drawn below, it's normally closed. Whether I accidentally don't touch it or not, if it's below, it's a normally closed. So you're right, it's supposed to touch. And if I was a draftsman CAD program, I'd make sure I'm going to touch. But it's kind of hard writing on a screen that's bouncing when you're writing on it. I see my screen bounces. So you see me sometimes put my hand behind it. So here we say all of them have to be pushed, right, before the light turns off. So this is, as I say NAND, if I say all, it's either a NAND or a AND. If it turns the load off, it's going to be a NAND. If it turns it on, it's going to be an AND.
So AND is or.
What's that?
AND switch. You turn it
off or on. It's going to be some type of OR operation. Well, or NOR, but it's still an OR. It's still a basic OR operation. It's just one turns it off and one turns it on. So we use that N word, and that's not a profanity word. That's a bad word. We don't want to do that. But that word right there. So if we put the N letter out there, that means what's required to turn something off, right? If we don't put that letter out there, that means what's required to turn stuff on. So I could have, as many normally closed devices as I need. They could be limit switches, they could be flow switches, they could be pressure switches, they could be push buttons, they could be optical sensors. If they're all normally closed, then this is going to be a NAND, right? Everybody okay? Yay, nay?
You said that's a NAND circuit.
NAND. Oh, I still have that window open over there. Everybody okay? It's been open since I burned up above the power supply. It's comfortable in here to me, but if you're chilly, we can go close it. So here we're combining, so here we have a NAND. Here we have a
And, I mean, no, a
NOR.
nor.
Here we have a
Or.
Here we have a
Oh.
Overload.
And.
it's a
And.
NOT.
Not.
One contact is
Yeah,
a
that's
NOT.
right.
To get an AND, a NOR, a NAND, or a NOR, you gotta have at least two. There's only one thing that has one, and that's a NOT.
Can you go over that again?
To get ANDs, ORs, NANDs.
Just one up there on the board.
Okay, so this is a
NAND.
NAND.
Nor.
NOR. Let me get over here and circle it, so that way if somebody's here, so that way they'll know what I'm doing. I do that a lot, by the way. If you listen to Integrity, you say, "What in the world?" So this guy right here, that section right there is a NAND. This section right here is a NOR. This section right here is a OR. This guy right here is a NOT.
Everything closes has an end on it.
Normally closes, we use the N, not the N letter.
I got a super question.
The only question is, stupid is if you ask me what's my name.
Shouldn't, I mean, I'm looking at the float switches there, but could that be an or? Because if either one of them, if the float switches are separate tanks, and one tank floats up,
It doesn't make any difference. It doesn't, they're only gonna be active, huh?
you'd still be getting power through if one of them are closed.
Huh?
You'd still be getting power through.
Yeah, but they're normally closed, and you're right, and you're true. That's exactly right. But NORs and NANs turn stuff off. So if you say one of them's closed, it's turned on. Well, that's fine. That's what makes it a NOR. So I mean, that's what makes it.
So that'd be an or.
So yeah, this is what makes this a NAND. So if I'm going to turn that contactor off, what's required?
Both of them.
All of them have to be open.
I see where the brain part came.
Yeah. So you're right. Well, if one of them is closed, it's going to be on because that's what the NAND is.
Right.
It's just that if they were normally open, they would all have to be closed. But
Right.
here, if any one of them opens, it's not going to turn the load off.
So this and this has to happen.
Yeah.
The load turns off.
Right.
Okay, my bad.
As soon as you say off, then we're talking about NANs and NORs and NOTs, right? So that's a good point. And you're right. Some people get confused about that. So you're saying, okay, if this was open and that was closed, the load's going to be on.
Still getting.
Yeah, but if it was an AND, so I understand, and that's it. So everybody okay? Any more questions? So there we got three of the logics. Or four, I'm sorry. The only thing that's not in there is an AND, right?
So a lot of times you just look at the change of the load, what's going to take for that load to change to tell whether.
Yeah, whether those things are desired to turn it off or whether they're desired to turn it on. So anytime we see normally closed contacts, then your brain needs to shift to NOTs, NANs, and NORs. Anytime you see normally open contacts, then your brain needs to shift to ANDs and ORs. Unless we get into exclusive ORs and exclusive NORs, but you'll see that in a minute. To get those operations, we're going to hook circuits in parallel, but it's going to combine knots and open contacts. So we have a desire all the time to compare things, to see if this is equal to this, or this and this. More probably if this and this is true, or this, not that is true, right? You understand? So what we do with exclusive ORs and exclusive NORs, these are our comparator circuits. And we never compare more than two things at a time. Okay, y'all understand that? Never compare more than two things. So if I do an AND, I could have all kinds of normally opens connected in series. If I do a OR, I can have all these normally opens connected in parallel, right? You understand? If I do NOT, we've only got one device normally closed in series, right? One. Okay. If I come up here and do NOR, we can have all these devices hooked in normally closed in series, right? And an AND, we can have all these normally closed hooked in parallel. It's not a parallel circuit, but y'all understand connected in parallel. When we get to exclusive NORs and exclusive ORs, we're going to only deal with two things. Now we're going to have four contacts, but the contacts are going to be controlled by two different things. Y'all understand that? Only two things.
This is exclusive.
We'll look at it. We ain't got there yet. Okay, auxiliary contacts. Everybody understand auxiliary contact? So we can let the motor starter, which has the motor starter, if it's three-phase, it's going to have three main contacts on that thing. And they're going to be pretty expensive because they're designed to handle a lot of current, right? Y'all understand that? But we move to this little sealing circuit over here. That stays inside the control diagram. That's not in the power, that's in the control. Okay? So instead of me spending extra money on a big high current contact, then what do we do on those things? We use what we refer to as auxiliary contact. Normally these are strapped onto the side of the contactor when we buy it. I think I showed y'all this one, right? By the way, I just didn't turn it over. They've got this operator. Yeah, I see that. Or I feel it. And that's the one on my computer. I've jerked my computer over a couple of times. So, but you can see it on this side. And so what we can do is we can buy auxiliary contacts for these motor starters or these main contactors. And we can add the auxiliary most of the time as needed. So if you look at this guy, they bring the operator out. Can y'all see that? So notice when I manually force it in, this little bar right here moves up. And then we got these screw holes where I can attach. So this is an auxiliary contact right here. This is a real small, low current capacity contact because it's not intended to run the load. It's intended to be used inside the control circuit. Okay? Y'all understand that? Okay. This one they have taped up to keep garbage out of it. But that's all we'd have to do. So I could buy this contactor, and here's my three main contacts right here. L1, L2, L3, and then T1, T2, T3. And then they have the manufacturer numbers up beside that on this guy. This tells us the size motors that this guy right here will run, by the way. And then auxiliary contacts on the side. And this is what they're talking about here. We would not use a main contact probably as a sealing circuit, right? That makes sense? So that's what they're talking about there. So what we don't see in this diagram is somewhere there's going to be this circuit right here. And this is going to come down through, this is the symbol we use for overload sensors. Yeah, so overloads are made of two things. It's made of the sensor that senses overload, and then the contact that trips out the motor starter if an overload exists. Okay.
could heaters be hooked to the auxiliary.
Could be heaters, but this is the symbol we use for overload. So it could be an electronic overload. It's just that this is the symbol we use not for the overloads themselves, for the sensor overloads. Because the overloads consist of two things. It senses, you got the sensors that sense when an overload condition exists, and then you got the contact that the overload controls, right? And then we'd run this into the three-phase motor. And these up here would be labeled M1, this would be labeled M2, this would be labeled M3. And over here, up here, of course this would be labeled L1. I'm sorry, up here this would be labeled, this would be L1, this would be L2, this would be L3 on the manufacturer numbers. And down here, if we put the manufacturer's numbers, this would be T1, T2, and T3. That makes sense? And up here, you know, this could be, what could the voltage be over here?
240, 480.
Yeah, 480. So your lines can be like 480, right? 660 or whatever. You know, over here, you know, this right here could be 24 volts.
That's just control.
That's control voltage. Of course, you still run into a lot of 120 volt stuff, but as time passes, because of the 70E standard, a lot of new control circuits now are dropping down to 24 volts. So, and that's what it is in your home. If you got an air conditioner outside, it's a 24 volt system. What's considered to be lethal? Anything above what is considered to be lethal? 50 volts. And once you get that 50 volt threshold, and 70E kicks in, and you got to start doing things depending on the amount of energy you have available in that circuit. And the higher the voltage, usually the more energy, right? It depends on.
If you isolate that circuit, you take all voltage off of it, it goes back to the lowest 70 rating. Right?
You mean if you pull it out, if you disconnect it up here? Yeah. But if you work on active circuits, and unfortunately, as technicians, we have to work on active circuits a lot. I mean, if you're going to figure out what's going on with the motor, odds are you're going to have to get a meter out and measure your load currents and measure your phase currents and measure your phase voltages. So if the voltages or the currents are not the same, then that means you've got a problem somewhere, or close to it. They're normally not exactly the same, but they're close to it. So normally we have two circuits a lot of times. We have what we call the control circuit, which contains, if it does have true loads that do physical work, like a solenoid, then, you know, we're talking about low current loads, right? We get these high current loads, then we're going to high voltage loads. Now, I say current, but that's not true. It's voltage. People don't understand that. It's not. You're right. It takes extremely low current to mess you up, you know. But you don't get a lot of current unless you got a lot of voltage. I is equal to E over R, right? So out there, that little old battery out there in your car probably has 200 or 300 amps available that can push out. And why don't it kill you? It's only 12 volts, right? You understand? And there's just not enough push to cause any problems. You know, on a real rainy day, you know, when you're pouring down rain, or in the summer, you might get a little tingle when you touch it, but it's still nothing. Normally, you don't even feel it, right? You understand? A 9 volt battery has the current carrying capabilities to kill you. Well, why don't it kill you? It's only 9 volts, right? So it's not the capacity of the source to deliver a current. It's how much voltage is out there, and then of course how much current it can deliver. So these 1.5 volt cells, you can handle them suckers all the time. So that's why we split this up. So the control circuit, we like to be low voltage because this is where we spend a lot of our time. And then over here, when we get into the power circuit, that's when we have to start looking, at what we need to do to protect ourselves. Are we okay? So this would be a wiring diagram. This would be a line diagram, right? I bet we got it stripped down. A common start-stop control circuit, and we also call this a memory circuit, creates adding a NOT logic. So this is what not. This is or not. So everybody understand this, how this works. We use this guy all over the place. This is a we might add more to it, make it more complicated, and seal it in different ways. We might have multiple stop buttons out there. We might have multiple start buttons out there. You know, we have what we call start-stop stations where they can start and stop motors from different locations. So we maybe have 2 stop buttons over here. We'll turn it from a not into a name. I'm going to see to a door. And then we could parallel start buttons, right? You understand? You know, y'all going to do something to do that. So how does this guy work?
Hit the start button at the start button.
Yeah, that's an OR, right? So if M1 is closed, the load will be energized. If the start button is closed, the load will be energized. But what happens, and by the way, this is a start button, and you got to be careful about your book. It looks pretty close to a normally closed, but remember, normally closed, the lines are drawn under the dots. Normally open, it's just that they draw them real close. Okay, so I come over and I press the start button. I mean, it's no time. You just press it and let it go. And so you press it. As soon as you press it, the coil energizes. As soon as the coil energizes, this guy here closed. You let it go, and it seals itself in, right? So a lot of people call this a memory circuit. Some people call it a 3-wire circuit. And some people call it a seal-in circuit. All those are perfectly legal. Now we got that. Now over here in our power circuit, those main contacts closed. The motor's got power, and the motor comes up to speed. Okay? So how do we stop this thing?
Use that knot.
Use that knot.
It's not.
Or the other knot.
Or if we have an overload. So this is in here for protect the motor against overload, right? Not this guy. So your sensors are over in the motor, in the power circuit, right? But the contact is over in the control circuit. So the overload trips, kicks this out, causes M1 to drop out. If M1 de-energizes, open this contact. Now we've lost this, right? And then what would be required to get it going again?
Pistol input, push and start.
Well, yes and no. We have to go over here and reset the knobs.
I'll
Right?
have to reset when it goes.
Depends on what type of motor it is. Most of your industrial motors, though, they have to be reset. You know, for obvious reasons, because those big old motors can cause damage. But the overload in your washing machine, overload in your dishwasher, and your dryer, those are auto reset. So all you have to do is you still got to wait till it cools down. If it's a heater, if it's an electronic overload, you can reset those instantly. If it's a heater overload, then you'll have to wait till those things cool down before you can reset. Then once the overloads are reset, then you can press the start button and start the whole thing. Now what's nice about this, and this is why we use it so much in the industry, if power fails, M1 drops out. And if power comes back on, these motors are not going to take off until somebody goes back and does what? Knows when to start them. And that's real, real dangerous, especially some of the motors that these circuits control. Are we okay? We call this a memory circuit. It's called a seal-in circuit. It's called a 3-wire circuit. And how I got that name, I'm not really sure. But if you talk about a 3-wire control, they're talking about a circuit with a seal-in. Are we okay?
Yes.
Of course, this is now all of a sudden we don't have a knot. This is no longer a knot. This is what? No. Any one of these buttons, any one of those buttons would turn it off, right? You understand? This is a OR. Right? Any button will start it. So we can have multiple, what we call start-stop stations. Now here, literally in a line diagram, and this is what's so nice about a line diagram, is everything is drawn out. You know, in the real world, what's going to happen is you're going to have L1, right? Then you're going to run some wires up through conduit or something, right? You understand? And then you're going to go to a normally closed push button. I don't need that right now. So which one am I drawing with? I think I'm drawing with that. And this is, what was I drawing? Okay, drawing here. So we'll go out through wires, through conduit, and then what would we do? We'd hit one of those normally stop buttons, right? You understand? And then what would happen? Then we'd run out through conduit and go all the way over here, and over here we'd have a normally closed stop button. Then we'd come down through here, and then we'd go to a normally open push button. Then we'd have a slide here, and we'd go off somewhere else, and we'd have another normally open push button. So you can see why, and this right here would come back and connect back to here, right? You understand? Then we'd have a set of wires running from here going to the contact for M1. Then we'd have this running back and coming in here, connecting right there, and then we'd run something from here over to M1. And so and this is why, if we try to draw the physical layout of this thing, it's going to get what? Very complicated. Now, how do we know where they go? Well, we come up here and we assign wire numbers. 1, 2, right? You understand? This guy here would be 3. All these right here would have a number on it, what? 4. This number right here would be 5. And then, of course, the overloads are on the overloads are usually wired for you. But this would be 6. And then L2 right now would be 7, right? Which I don't get to. But when I come up here and put it as a ladder diagram, instead of trying to physically put that, and this is the problem we have, people try to wire this thing according to what the picture looks like. Huh? Don't tell me I made it.
No, I was just asking. I'm pretty sure you're right. Okay, second 3. 3 coming from the second stop, but.
Yeah, that would be 4. I'm sorry.
Would it be 4?
Yes, it would be 4.
3?
No. The rest of them would be 3. If we go by numerical, they would all have the same number.
No, that's what.
So in our situation, this would all be 3. Thank you.
Even the overload, right? I mean, that would be 3 too.
And this right here would still be 4. Yeah, that would be 3 right there. Right. This right here would be 4. This would be 4 right there.
And 5 on the other side of the motor.
And then 5 right there. If we number it in a sequence. A lot of times, they might not exactly go in sequence, but they're going to be, they never, usually don't go back, but they might skip over some numbers. And why they do that is they might have varying connections of that control. It's the same control, but this company wants this, and this company don't want that. So what they do is they'll leave the wire numbers the same for all of them. Does that make sense? So I've never seen them go backwards, but I have seen them sometimes not go in sequence. But they go in sequence, but they might skip a few numbers. And the only thing I can understand is that they have several variations of that same control circuit. So we're okay now? My 2 is up on the line. Still got 1 okay. So what we're talking about, when we're talking about a start-stop stations, these guys are not going to be right next to each other. What would be the benefit of having 2 start-stop stations right next to each other, where I could figure out which one I use? So when we have multiple start-stop stations, one might be 100 yards down this way, right? You understand? And what this does, it gives operators the ability to save a lot of time preventing walking back and forth and back and forth. You're down here doing something, I got to start this thing back up, and you walk all the way back through here, start it, and you turn around and do what? Walk all the way back. So multiple start-stop stations are very, very common. We're only showing 2, but it could be 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, but all your stops, you would hook in a
Series.
Yeah, series.
Many.
Man.
We want any stop button to stop the motor. Any.
Right.
So we'd hook them in NOR, right? You understand? All our push buttons, we would hook in OR, right? The overload you wouldn't have to worry about. Is it break time? Okay, I'll take a break. 2 minutes. Okay, so as we move along, these diagrams get more common. More complex. Here we have an e-stop button. By the way, e-stop buttons normally do not move power from the control circuit. It removes the power from the loads. So remember that. So just because you hit And this, but, you know, one of the qualifications for e-stop buttons, we draw them as normally closed, but they're actually latching push buttons. Which means what? And you have to twist them and pull out on them to get them to come off. So as long as they're pushed down, they'll leave power on, they will remove power from the control circuit. So we have to remember, if we got e-stops, it's got to be in everything, right? So normally what we do is we use the e-stop button to energize a relay. We use e-stop button to de-energize a relay by itself, and then we put that contact in all the runs. Or we put the contact in the line, L1 side. So both of those are very popular too. And then put everything else down below that. Does that make sense? So here we have an emergency stop button. And then when we get past, it's a what? Not. And then we have a stop button.
That's a null.
No, it's a not. As soon as you see this dot right here, that separates from this, right? You understand? So when we say knots and nans and ands, there's no wire going in the center of those.
I'm looking at it as parallel with the stop at the bottom button.
No, it's not.
No, it's not. It's controlled in a different circuit.
Okay.
So it'd be a not.
Okay, now it came out of pause. I didn't do anything. It just came out of pause. Oh, no, it's not. It's not pause. Y'all got me messed up. I got y'all messed up. Still, what I do when I go to call attendants, I freeze the display so it will not show y'all's student ID numbers. So it was recording the whole time. Well, not true. I paused it one day.
Push that stop at the top, it misses the top.
Yeah, so this is a not, because if it would be controlling the same load.
Okay.
So when we talk about knots, nans, nors, and nans, we're talking about controlling one load, all right? You understand? And so what happens as soon as I hit this guy right here, then this would be no longer would be nor, right? So as soon as you see that, then these two are not nors. Because to be a nor, they would have to be connected together with nothing in the center, right? To get that logic, then you would be controlling one load, but as soon as it moves over to the second load, then this would make it a what? So this is a not. And this right here is a not. Right? That's a not. This right here is a or. This right here is an or. This right here would be a not. This right here would be a not. So this is a control that's used to control two different motors. Are we okay? They use a common stop. They use a common emergency stop.
Did it control one mode?
Two motors. We have an M1, M2. So the two contactors have two different names. So if the two motor starters have two different names, it means it's controlling two different motors.
But the motor stop drops it all.
Yeah, it drops it out. It kills power to the motor. And it also kills power to the control circuit, because when you press the emergency stop, if it's not defective, then what should happen? It should latch down, right? The emergency stop button should latch down, which would remove power from the control circuit too. But you don't quite see that here because it looks like just a block. Looks like just a normal close push button. But it's a latching push button. So emergency stops, if you look at them, first of all, they're identified by what? Mushroom heads. It can't be a recessed head like most of your. A lot of your other push buttons are recessed to keep them from accidentally being activated. You literally got to push them. Some have a little cutout that allows them to be actuated with people that's wearing heavy gloves. So we have different. I don't know what they call them. No, the covers that go around the button.
The ring.
Yeah, the rings. Yeah. But your emergency stop buttons are going to be mushroom buttons. Mushroom buttons are buttons that have a extenuated crown on the top of them. Sorry. They're going to be latching buttons, which means you hit them and they're going to latch into open position. Even though normally closed, they're going to latch into open position. And then you have to twist it to get it to come out. Some of them, you twist it and they'll pop out, but a lot of them, you have to twist them and pull them out. So as long as the e-stop button is in, of course, that's going to remove power from the motor, and it's also going to remove power from the control circuit, right? Everybody okay? Two e-stop buttons, two start stations are used to control two separate magnetic starters, and the magnetic starters are used to control motors. And it's very common to do that. But it's more common to just put a relay that controls everything. How do I know this is a motor starter?
It's got a
Yeah, it's obvious in the book because they use a generic name, M1, M2. You know, but I got a control diagram like that was controlling number 4 galvanized line where you got out there, and that sucker is, how many motors does that thing run? So we're going to run out of numbers before long, and now they won't fit inside the circle anymore. So what we do is we move the names up to the top, normally to the top. I know it's a motor starter, not because of the M, because of that guy right there. It's because it's got the overload in series. So it might be called number 2 motor. It might not be, you know, it could be called all kinds of things depending on the company that puts the thing together. Are we okay here? So if you see an overload on the right side of the relay, then that relay is a motor starter. If you don't see the overloads, then it depends on what it does. If all the contacts for a relay stay inside the control logic, it will be called a control relay. If it controls power outside of it, it would be called a contactor. So that's the nomenclature. Of course, when you go to work, you use the terms they use, right? Two motors can be started almost simultaneously to prevent product separation. And notice what we got here. This is very common. So we got one start-stop station, but in line 3, of course, this tells us. So this tells us what? That these are numerical cross-reference numbers. What do the numerical cross-reference numbers tell us? The location of contacts for the relay. Because this is not a motor, that's a relay that controls the motor, right? So it tells us we have a contact in line 2. So this is line 2. To be a line number, you don't have to touch the L1 side. Y'all understand that? So any line that moves horizontal has a line number. So here's line 2, and how do I find where line 2 is? I just start going across, you know, like that, perpendicular to L1, and eventually we should hit a line. So it means I come up here and press this start button. It comes up here, applies power to M1, M1 closes that contact. I can do what? I can release this. It's also going to control that contact right there. Now this comes in instantly. It takes a little time for this M1 contact to close, right? So that's what they're saying, almost instantly. They won't start, but it would be something that we wouldn't be able to physically see ourselves. Standard say, I mean, we could use M1 auxiliary contact. Now this would be an auxiliary contact, right? You understand? Because this is not driving the motor. All this is doing is energizing the relay. The relay has those power contacts on it that runs the motor over here in the power section of the diagram. Everybody understand that? So diagrams, once we start running with motors, especially the higher horsepower motors, your diagrams are going to be split into 2 diagrams. You're going to have the control diagram, and then you're going to have the power diagram, right? That makes sense? Okay? The power diagram is usually a wiring diagram, and then this is going to be a ladder diagram. Sometimes they include the control inside the wiring diagram. They do, but it makes it real hard to trace. That line the line diagram or the ladder diagram, you can figure out how the thing works, right? So the ladder diagram shows us the logic of the circuit. It shows us how to connect it up. It makes it real easy to troubleshoot. A pilot light is used with a pressure switch to indicate when the device is activated. So I have two lines in this diagram. We have one relay, and by the way, and somebody's going to do that in this class. Somebody is going to assign contacts to a light bulb. I've never taught a class in motor controls where somebody in that class, when they were doing these cross-reference numbers on the right-hand side, they just strung numbers up there. And they got numbers out beside the light bulbs. The light bulbs do not have contacts. And I say that every class, but and then I'll come up there and you know, and this will be one of the main things we're going to give out on our test is just you assigning line numbers and contact numbers and wire numbers.
So that two over there is referring to that pressure switch?
No, it's referring to the contact being controlled by that relay. Okay, understand? Okay, and it's going to be in line 2, and there's no contact down. So that's a mistake. Is that in y'all's book like that?
Yes.
Yep.
Maybe they just
Yeah, well, they left out something because here's line 2 right here. So line 2, we follow line 2 over, and all it goes to is a light bulb. So this is wrong. Kathy, you're the first one that found it. Yeah, so here's line 2. What's not in line 2?
Contact.
An M1 contact.
You could put one there.
Huh?
You could put one there. You don't need it, but.
No, I don't know where we put it at. You know, we might, for some reason, put one right
You
here.
have to take that line out.
Undoubtedly, this is the way they wanted to draw it. So this is the way they wanted to do it. They wanted it to be done. The original intent was probably like that. And then this right here would be M1. There's really no need to do that. If the light comes on anytime M1's on, instead of sacrificing a contact, we would just hook the light in parallel.
Just something else to break.
Something else break, right?
No, that, oh yeah.
We have devices like that, which would have a set of contacts in. The motor comes up, well, it's showing it's running, but the motor's not actually running.
Yeah, but that's not, that doesn't indicate the motor's running. All that indicates is the contactor that controls the motor should be energized.
Yeah.
Of course, you got to understand, this would be, if this guy right here went bad, the light would come on. So that would be the advantage of doing it this way.
Right.
If you do it this way, the relay itself could be defective and the light still comes on. So that's a good point.
If the contactor contacts were bad, but the contactor still closed, the light would come on also, right?
He took the line out.
Yeah, that's what the dash is.
He took the line out. Well,
So we have several things that can go defective. We have relays that burn up all the time because it's got that magnetic wire in it, right? And that magnetic wire has almost no insulation at all because they're trying to get those wires so close together so they get a real good magnetic coupling between those things. And so it's very easy for those things, and they're constantly trying to vibrate, right? Because every time they change, those things are trying to pull together. Does that make sense? Or push apart in a relay. In a transformer, they're trying to pull together, the primary and the secondary. But so I put a positive here and I put a positive here, and those wires in a solenoid are trying to push apart because the same polarity is your tail. And then when we hit 0, they come back together. And then when it goes negative, they try to push apart. So that's why most of your industrial coils are encapsulated. They're put in a plastic, got a epoxy in there. One thing is to keep you from accidentally scraping those coils unprotected, right? You understand? Another thing is also that they help prevent those things from vibrating because eventually they'll wear themselves out. You see them make those motors and stuff. A lot of times, once they get the stator and the rotors wound, they'll dip that thing down into a nice vat of lacquer, and seal those things up, and it prevents moisture from getting in there, but also it keeps those things from those wires from vibrating. So we have relay coils that burn out a lot. So that's why most industrial relays, a coil is replaceable. You got a little screw or a pin, you pull or screw out, and the armature will fall out. You slide the coil off, put another coil on there, and you don't have to replace the relay. You know, we're using very small relays, but man, you got wires running all over the place. And anytime you pull something out and you put a new one in there, that so that you could wire it wrong, right? So they like to do that a lot. So a lot of your control relays are going to be, small control relays are going to be in sockets. And then these guys, you have the ability to change contacts on them. You have the ability to change the coil and not replace the whole relay. And what we got used to is dropping the new one on the side and pulling one wire off at a time and doing what? Moving it to the same one on the other relay. That way you wouldn't even have to worry about documenting. But yeah, the advantage of doing it this way is that if your relay coil will burn up in this light right here, the light ray will come. The other way, the relay coil will burn up and the light will still come on. So a lot of people would assume that this right here was burn.
That's what got me one time.
Really? But yeah, but both of, huh?
Did you know Steve Knox?
I think so. I think it was out. How long has he been out there? I lived there in. I started here in '82, but I'd been off a year from out there. So
We had a hydraulic that was supposed to be, the indicator light was on, saying, "Hey, I'm running." Go downstairs, it ain't running. And went back upstairs, the indicator said, "Yeah, I'm running. I am running." That's some screwed up.
well, the indicator. There's no way to really know that a light cannot tell if something is running.
But that's when Steve came
Well,
back and said, "I want every one of them lights tied into the auxiliary contact sealed in, so that way, if we don't pick up that core, which is the start, we know that it ain't running." Which we ain't got the light.
We should have found that in a heartbeat with a meter, right? You pull a meter out and measure that. Yeah, so if you put a meter, and of course, normally we troubleshoot from the L2 side. What we like to do when we troubleshoot is we like to use 1 meter lead. And why is that? We like to use 1 meter lead. Well, what we like to do is we like to troubleshoot with one hand. So what we do is you see these guys, they'll have these alligator clips and everything on their common lead, and they'll take their meter and hook it up on the L2, and then they just start moving. Well, if I would have found voltage, of course, if I would have found voltage right there, it would indicate the overload was open. If I find voltage right there and the coil's not energized, I know the coil is bad, right? And that's the way we troubleshoot. And we're looking for voltage because all the voltage is dropped across the open. So that's what we do. L2 toward L1. That's what we troubleshoot. Of course, this is after you've amplified power. But if you got 100 things on the device and everybody else is working, normally we don't even look at L1 and L2 because if L1 was bad or L2 was bad, then nothing else would work. So yeah, we just go up there and have an alligator clip, find L2, find that wire number anywhere, right? You understand because it's going to have the same number. If it was wire number 5, any terminal that's labeled 5 is L2. So just clip it on there and then start troubleshooting back. We had one guy, he had meter leads that must have been 30 feet long. So he had, because of number 4 galvanizing line, the relays were so far spaced apart. But you didn't really need that because L2 run through the whole, it was on terminal boards everywhere. But yeah, Bill had them laced up. It was real pretty, and he'd hook on this, and he'd just take his meter. Fluke's got a meter that's got a removable indicator, so you can literally leave your meter down here and carry the indicator with you. It sends through Bluetooth, which is pretty neat. Of course, they give those things away too. Fluke is probably the leading. It's kind of like I don't know what you call the Cadillacs now. When you say the Cadillac, when something was the best you could buy, they're in meters. They were really, kind of like Tektronix oscilloscope. Pilot light is used when a start-stop station. We use pilot lights a lot. Why do we use pilot lights a lot? Because we're visually oriented species, right? We like to see things. Like a lot of these plants, these relays are not nowhere near the operator station, the push button station. They're off in a house somewhere. So you're going to be up here, you're going to press a button, you're going to see that where they go chomp, right? You understand? Because the relays are going to be right by you. So what they do is they use a lot of indicator lights. So this one would indicate if there should be power to the coil. So what this is telling you right here, if this light comes on, it means there's a 99% chance that that sucker right there has got power to it. And the only thing that would cause you problem is the overload. So these indicator lights, we can't tell you when something is running. All they can tell you is when something's got power, right? Y'all understand that? So hooking them in parallel, hooking them in series, hooking them up by themselves, of course, would indicate this guy is not energized. But if it comes on and this is not energized, then there's a high probability either it's your overload or the coil itself, right? And you can find that in a heartbeat with a watch. Maybe. Yeah, because your overload contacts are right there on the starter. You just come up here and find L2, and L2 should be right there. Jump right here. If you read your power right here, this should measure 0 volts, because that sucker should have no opposition, right? Because it's a closed circuit. Okay, so you measure 0 volts there, you measure 120 volts or 24 volts right there. But then now M1 is bad, and you troubleshoot.
With that, right there where you got your point at, that light won't come on for a second.
What do you mean for a second?
As soon as you push that start button, it's gonna come on, but it's gonna stay on.
It's on the start.
When that seal there come in.
It's going to stay. It's going to do the same thing that this guy right here is supposed to be doing.
It's gonna go off soon as they go to start, but if you got one bad.
Well, I don't know what you mean. I come up here, I hit this button. This is in parallel. So if this guy right here is on, this guy right here should be on. I come over and press the start button. That right there closes. Open the start button. Both lights are on.
What he's saying, the lights on the start button.
As soon as you touch that start button, it's gonna instantly come on.
Right. M1's bad. As long as you don't start button.
Yeah. Okay, I understand. You're saying if M1 was bad. Yeah. So I just didn't know. I didn't know you was talking about a problem. Yeah. If M1 is bad, it won't seal in. So y'all hear what they said? That's a good point. So if you press this button right here, and the light comes on, and you release the button, the light goes off. It means M1 is not coming in. Or the overload catching. Well, it means M1's not coming in. But if M1 doesn't energize, it's either because the coil itself is bad, or a contact's bad, or this guy right here is bad. What?
The contact just won't work.
Yeah, so if this contact, so I was looking at it from a normal operation point of view, and y'all was looking at it a problem point of view, so we wasn't on the same wavelength. So what they're saying, if the coil is bad, or what we're saying now, we're speaking with one voice, right? So if the coil is bad and the light is good, you press the start button. Well, if the coil is bad, this contact right here would never close. So you never get that ore down there, right? So the light comes on as soon as you release the start button, the light goes off. Then that's a real good indication that you're having a problem up here. Either with the wiring, and you got to understand, don't blame, and this is why you move that meter. So people wonder why, if this right here is common, and I've got my black lead right there, why would I check it there and then check it there?
You're looking for potential voltage.
Well, yeah, that's what you're looking for, but we get open wires in these things all the time. You know, the airplane I worked with in the Navy was the P3, and we got the C version. And I didn't re-up, so they didn't send me to the school. So everybody that had a lot of time in, at least a year in, they sent all these people to school. And all these new planes started coming in, and we had to work on them. We hadn't had a school on it at all. And we had one that had an intermittent problem, and this was a $25 million airplane where when they put it together, they didn't screw up screw down. So what was happening is they had a momentary contact in that system. So what I'm saying is that, you know, all these all these wires have been crimped by people. All these wires have been screwed down by people. All these wires, I've seen them put on those crimps, and they crimp it, but they have the insulation all the way up into the thing. And now all you got is little wire things out there touching, right? I've seen that happen. So when you go through this, you need to go to the different points that you have access to. And what you're doing is you're looking for voltage. And as soon as you find voltage, what you just went over is what your problem is, right? Okay, now when you do this, somebody's got to press these guys right here. So you got to have somebody over there so a lot of these things you're in a relay house and somebody else is out there pushing these buttons. Or you can jump them. I didn't get to go to, they were giving out the schools for a number 8 blast furnace. We didn't get that because I wasn't assigned to the blast furnace. But we had one guy, his name was Gibson. Now he's probably retired. But he slept through the whole school back there. And every time the instructor would say, any questions, he'd say, yeah, how do you jump it out? If it don't work, how do you jump it out? That was a big joke out there. So we said that for a while. How do you jump it out? So you could, if you could locate these 2 wires right here, which is pretty easy because the wire numbers, you can put a jumper across that, right? So be careful when you do it. You got to read those wire numbers right. A not logic is used to indicate when a device is not operating. So notice this. This is the arrangement we was looking at a while ago, where we're using M1 and they're using a normal close contact. So anytime M1 is not energized, the light would be on. Anytime M1 is energized, then the pilot light would be on. And of course, this is okay. So y'all okay on this one? The other one, this one's okay. So here we got M1. It says we're looking for a normally open contact in line 2. Okay, so here's line 2. The other one, we're looking for a normally closed contact in line 3. How do I know it's normally closed? Yeah, so anytime we see this line right here, it indicates that is normally closed. If we don't see a line, it means we're looking for a normally open. Okay. Line numbers are on the left, on the L1 side. We call these numerical cross-reference numbers. They're on the right. Wire numbers are going to be inside the diagram on the wires, right? Manufacturer's numbers are usually sometimes put on there, sometimes they're not. So we look at that US Steel print, we don't see any manufacturer numbers. What you're going to do when you wire these circuits up is you're going to assign those manufacturer numbers. So that'll tell you what number to hook it up to on the push button station, right? Everybody okay? It's break time?
I'll blast myself.
No, it ain't break time. We got 15 minutes. A sequence control circuit does not let the first conveyor operate unless the second conveyor has started. Okay, so what we got, what we got? So we press M1, okay, as soon as we press M1, conveyor 1 starts. But it also puts power onto the control circuit of M2. Right. Right? I understand that.
But can't start.
So it can't start. You okay on that one? And later on, so we'll get into timers. A lot of times, if they're not running the same conveyor belts, we don't like starting a bunch of motors at the same time. And why is that?
If it's an area,
We call it the inrush current.
Yeah, much older.
Yeah. So we got one circuit. By the way, when you're wiring these circuits, if it don't show the wiring diagram for the power circuit, don't hook the motor up. There's one circuit that we have that it's a sequence starter, but it runs 2 motors. And we've had this happen several times, but they don't do the wiring. They don't do the wiring right, and 2 motors start at the same time. It blows the fuses and are disconnected. So those are low, we have low energy circuits here, even though we're dealing with 240 and 120, the 120 is fused by, I think it's 10, maybe not 10. So this is fused with a 1 amp fuse. So it's a very low energy circuit, right? You understand? These guys are fused with 10 amps. 10 amps. So that means the inrush on these, even though these are quarter horsepower motors, if they start 2 of these at the same time, it's going to blow these fuses right here. Won't blow this fuse, because this is control, right? You understand? And the lower the energy of the circuit, so when you start talking about your protective equipment you have to wear when you get above 50 volts, it don't mean just because you get above 50 volts you got to start putting on these blast suits. It depends on how much energy is available at that. You know, so if you got 480 and it's fused by a 6,000 amp breaker, then you're going to have to put some stuff on. If you got 6,000 volts that's fused by a 1 amp breaker, then you probably don't have to put that stuff on. So it's how much energy is there when it starts arcing and flashing on you. Are we okay? So there's a lot to the calculations that these engineers have to go through before they start. Selector switch. So we have a selector switch. So it's different than a push button. This could be multiple position. Ours are, I think, 3 positions. And it's part of our lights. And understand, they put legends on these things, and we've already talked about it once. They put legends on these things just to give you an indication how it would look in industry. So usually in industry, everything is labeled. And they do this with a plate that we refer to as a legend plate. And so here's our push button. Here's one of our stations. These are 2 lights, 120 volt lights, but they're labeled start and stop. Does that mean they're only used for stop and starts? They're used as lights, right? So if it tells you to wire up a light, it's going to be one of these, the indicator light. Here's our selector switch right here. So selector switches are different than push buttons. They actually stay in the position that you select. Now, they could be 2 position or they could be 3 position. One of them's labeled auto, one of them's labeled manual. If you need a selector switch, this is the switch you use no matter what it's serving in our circuits, right? You understand that? You know, we have that. I only have one of these. I don't have any lights labeled that. These are lights, right? Okay. And this is our indicator lights right here. And then this is our selector switch. This has a center off. So if I put it this, and you can actually see the diagram over here. Oops. So this is the diagram for the selector switch. And so if we got it in the center, it's not making either set of contacts. This is hard to see. It's got a dashed line and it's got a solid line. So if I flip it to this direction called auto, then it would close one set of contacts. The other set would be open, right? You understand? If I flip it to the other position, then the other set of contacts would close and then the other set would open. Are you okay? And this is a little diagram that shows us how to connect it. These are what? Manufacturer numbers. Yep. So this has nothing to do with your wire number. This shows what, when I come down to this terminal board, this shows what numbers I use when I put my male banana plugs into these guys right here. Okay? So this is our selector switch. Selector switches could have multi-positions. This one has 3 with a center off. So this is what it looks if it didn't blend on my camera. So notice this guy's what? Dashed. This is dashed. This right here is solid. This is solid. Okay. So right now, so this doesn't have a center off. So right now, as it's drawn, that's in this position right here. If I flip it to this position right here, then this guy's going to do what? Close, and this guy here is going to open. The only difference with the one we got, it's got a center off. So if you put it in off position, this is where that contact goes in the center, and neither one of them work. So this allows us to go, y'all know what jog is. What's jogging? When we jog a motor, what do we do? We bump it or run it in short bursts, usually to get things into position. So a lot of times we have we have a selector switch, and this is very common in the industry where you can flip it between jog and you can flip it between to run. That makes sense? So and all we're doing is taking out the what? The ceiling or the memory circuit. So the position it is in now, the memory circuit is made, so if I press the start button, this will come in, this will seal in. Right? If we put it in the jog button, the jog position, then of course it's going to move down to here. This is going to move out here. And now I press that button, M1 energizes, that contact right there closes, but it's closing on an open circuit, right? You understand? I let go of the start button, the motor stops. I let go, push the start button, the motor runs. So this would be what we call a jog, run jog. And you see these a lot. I've seen many of those out here too. Yeah. That's all it is to it. So the selector switch is in the ceiling. This shows us we have two lines. How many runs? One run. Because this is one circuit, right? You understand? And we have two lines over here on the left hand side. This shows I only have one contact. It's a normally open contact, and it's somewhere in line 2. And there it is right there. Okay? This is what we're talking about troubleshooting. So normally if something's not working, it's not because it's either not getting voltage or it's actually defective. It's getting voltage to develop power, but the device itself is defective. So it means we got an open circuit, right? Somewhere. If we got an open circuit, we don't have work. But what's nice is that the total voltage will be dropped across the open. Because nothing's dropping voltage anymore, right? You understand that? So the way we normally troubleshoot these things is we like to troubleshoot with one lead, because now I don't have to worry about my leads touching anymore. I don't have to worry about getting both my hands in a circuit that's active, because by the way, to make voltage measurements, the circuit has got to have power on it. And this is where it starts getting dangerous. So when I replace things, or when I go out there and tear things apart, that's when the lockout, tagout stuff comes into play. When you're actually going to tear stuff up or replace something. While you're troubleshooting it, odds are it's going to have power on the circuit, right? Unless it's painfully obvious. What's the first step of troubleshooting? If you're troubleshooting, what's the first step of troubleshooting? What do you do? If you're at US Steel and this guy calls and says, well, this thing won't jog, what's the first thing you do? You verify the problem. If you've ever troubleshot before, when somebody calls you and they tell you something's wrong, you don't take for granted it's wrong. You verify the problem, right? You understand? Make sure it's there. And you get these operators out there, they won't have a switch in the right position, and you go out there and there's nothing wrong. They just don't have it set up right. So first thing you do is verify it, right? That's the first step of troubleshooting. Verify the problem exists at all. What's the second step? Somebody said that. Somebody said, Mr. Morgan, what did you say?
Unless you see smoke coming.
Yeah, so what we do is we do a vision, we look things up. We just look it over. You can't tell how many things I've fixed just by looking things over. Right? I mean, I put in a printed circuit board and there's a resistor burned up on there. I didn't even pull out my first meter, right? I know it's bad. Look things over.
First step is smell.
That would be part of your visual. So smell is part of it. What's the third step? Check power. Make sure you have power. It's just like when you walk into the doctor, that's what they're doing. The first thing they do is check your power, right? Check your blood pressure.
put together the circuit breaker, you pop the circuit breaker, and if the thing works, you good. If
Well, that's
if you
visual.
don't, well, there you go.
Well, so that's visual. That's what we're talking about, looking things over. You know, look at things. So what would be part of looking things over? Making sure the switches are in the right position, making sure there's no circuit breaker pops, making sure there's no overload stripped, right? The overload gives you an indicator. You don't have to pull out a meter. That's part of your visual inspection. So you'll be surprised how many things you can fix without even pulling out your first meter. But if all the circuit breakers are good, all the overloads are in, right? Then what you need to do is verify that there's power load. So we check between L1 and L2, right? And if we don't have power for L1 and L2, then we move up to our disconnects and see what's going on there. It might be the transformers. You know, so transformers, if you got voltage on the primary, you don't have voltage on the secondary, then there's something wrong there, right? Then the next thing we would do is we'd start doing this.
Go phase to phase on the motor.
Well, that would be part of checking power.
Check power.
And that's right, but it could be your fuse, you know. Some fuses have the indicator. That's what's nice about a circuit breaker. A circuit breaker has a trip indicator on it. Fuses can get you in trouble. And that's why, first of all, most, in the airplanes I worked on, they had no glass fuses in that thing. So you could look in and look at it and see if it was blown. That always surprises me when people pull a fuse out and look on it and never put a meter in. I had a friend of mine lost a job because of that. He went into a ticker tape machine, you know, that shows the stock thing sliding across there, and it wasn't operating. He didn't pull out his meter, and how did he do the fuse? I hope they all look good. So they called this guy to Chicago. He had to fly down. They had to pay for his plane trip down there. They had to pay for a hotel room, and it was like a minimum of so many hours. Well, so much pay just even getting down there. Come down and found a blown fuse. And my buddy lost his job because of that. So when these glass fuses are very notorious about popping up in the cab. Normally they pop in the center, right? When those suckers blow, they usually leave a silver vapor. That's the exact way, by the way, they plate stuff. You know, one of the ways they plate is by vapor. How they put that aluminum coating on all the plastic stuff is done by vapor. So they put it in an oven. They have a unit that just melts these metals, turns into a vapor, and it just adheres to all these plastic things. If you wonder how they actually chrome plastic, it's not really chrome, it's just aluminum. So what should a good fuse measure? We check fuses, we can check them with a voltmeter.
No.
If we check them with a voltmeter, we go across the fuse. If we're checking it with common, by the way, and the fuse is blown, then we won't have power all the way up to the fuse, and then when we go to the other side of the fuse, we'll have a voltage. If you check across the fuse, it should drop almost no voltage at all. If it's good. If you check it with an ohm meter, it should have very, very low resistance. Usually less than 2 ohms. Depends on the current rating. Yeah, usually the lower the current rating on the fuse, it's going to have a little more resistance on it because it pops with heat, right? So the only time it's I square R. So to get heat, I got to have I square R. And fuses do what? They melt. So that means they've got to have what? They got to have R. Got to have an R component. So they're not going to measure exactly 0.
Most times blown fuse is going to say OL.
Yeah, overload because if you're not touching if you got an auto ranging meter, by the way, this is another advantage of manual ranging meter. An auto ranging meter is going to try to measure something. And if you don't look at that scale and you're touching that meter lead, and you hold that fuse like that, that meter is not going to show overload. That meter is going to show you. Of you. But you look, it's going to be in megohms, but you don't see people like that. You know, it might be 1 megohm, and they say, well, gosh, that's 1 ohm. That's good, right? You understand? So if you got these auto ranging meters and you put it on ohms, and there is a circuit there, which it might be you, right? You understand? Them suckers are going to range until they show you something. So make sure you look for those ohms out there, right? Those megohms, right? Because that's got people in trouble too. Check with fuse. I usually check them with a fuse, even though if I pull them out. So.
I seen the little glass gives like 0.5 and less, I use that beep thing, 'cause I ran into that. I'm trying to read one. I'm saying, this view's good, this view's good. And all of a sudden, I stuck it on there and I didn't get no beep. I started getting a beep. I didn't get a beep.
Yeah, I used a continuity checker. If you
Right.
use a continuity checker on your meter, then you don't have to worry about the megs, because it'll beep at you when it's good, and it will not affect you bad. We had a fuse in one of our transmitters, one of our PIMCO transmitters out there, that around the frame you couldn't check with an ohmmeter. The current rating on the meter was so low, if you checked it with an ohmmeter, you blew it. So when an ohmmeter turns it into a current source, right? That's the way it measures. What it does, these digital meters, the way they work is it puts out, I think it's like 100 milliamps. And it steps the voltage up until 100 milliamps flows. And then it translates that into ohms. So if you got a fuse that's rated less than 100 milliamps, then an ohm meter could do what? Could blow the fuse.
You can do that with a megger quick.
Oh, Megger, yeah, Megger puts out. Megger,
You go fishing with a
Megger
megger.
big, yeah, you can switch it with dynamite too. But Megger, we used to call it telegraphing. We used to telegraph the fish.
Yeah.
So,
Get in trouble for that.
a Megger is it's a high voltage device. It usually has a crank handle on it. There are some electronic ones. But what it does is used to check insulation. So believe it or not, insulation is not infinite ohms. And so what you do is you put it on your insulation, or you might put it on the chassis of your motor and put it on one of your windings and measure that thing out, and you should be up in the gig ohms. You're going to measure something. Yeah, but you can hook it up. You got a metal bottom boat. You can get you a string wire and hook one lead up to it, and throw it over the water. You can hook the other one to your metal boat, and we call it telegraphing fish. Works real good on catfish. Yeah.
Game warden don't like it.
No, they don't. I don't know. They don't like dynamite neither. So what we do when we start to check voltage, by the way, to check voltage, somebody has to do what?
Owns that switch.
Hold that switch down. Everybody understand that? Because if you don't do that, then you're going to have 0 volts until you get there. So somebody holds the switch down, you put your meter lead on L1, and then they missed the spot. What spot did they miss?
The one between the.
Yeah, right here.
Overload and the inflow.
And what are we looking for?
Voltage.
We're looking for voltage. As soon as you find the voltage, whatever you just went over is the problem that's getting that relay from energizing. If you measure right here and you measure equals to approximately 0 volts, you move over here and you have 120 volts, then by George, you just found the open. It's the coil that's bad, right? You understand? Yeah. If you come over here but you need to check on this side. Even though you check right here, you need to check here and you need to check there, because what you're trying to do is you're trying to eliminate. Not only are you trying to eliminate the devices, you're trying to eliminate the wire. And there's a lot of times wires go bad. Just a bad crimp, right? Just a bad termination. It works, and all of a sudden something. This happened, by the way. I know it's time for break. I've been living in my house is paid for. So I've been in my house about 38 years, and we got an electric oven. And all of a sudden the other day, the light started blinking and then it stopped working. Of course, it's in the plug. If it's 240 plugs are supposed to be where you can't get to them, right? They're either going to be connected directly. They're not going to have a plug. They're going to have maybe a disconnect, right? But like your hot water heater is not going to be plugged. It's going to be direct connected. Your air conditioners, those are direct connected. Your stove is going to have a plug, and your 240 plug, and your dryer is going to have a 240 plug. If that plug is not up when you get to it, it's where? On the floor, down in the basement. So the first thing I did was, what's the first thing I did? Of course, look things over, I couldn't see that. Then, verify the problem. Of course, I was there when it happened, so it was pretty easy to verify. So I had to go to my panel box, right? You understand? Of course, the panel box, you got to pull the cover off it to get to the breaker. Measured voltage out of the breaker, and it was not. So I went in there, I pulled the stove out. It's hard for me, by the way. It's not hard for me to pull the stove out, it's hard for me to get down. Got down to the plug, unplugged it, checked the voltage. There was no voltage on the plug. So then you start panicking and say, God, I got to rat to see the light. But no, pulled the plug off, checked it there again. wasn't there, and what happened when the electrician had screwed it under that compression ring, he just barely got on the tip of one of the wires. And over time and heat and expansion, the wire popped out. So what was happening, it was just touching, so sometimes it would work. So it happened the other day, and then it came back on. I told my wife I was going to check it, but then it stopped working altogether. But that was a wire, right? You understand? That was a wire. So you check it on the plug, and you checked it on the wire, and it was good. Okay, so it was to the wire, but it wasn't to the plug. So it was literally this same thing that we're talking about. It was a bad connection. So when you check these, what you need to do is jump to these terminals that you have access to. So just because you checked it there, don't mean it's right there. So if you check it on this side of M1, and then you check it on the start button, you got it on the start button, but you don't have it on M1, then there's only one thing it can be. In this class, it's going to be you wired it wrong, right? When you troubleshoot, you wired it wrong, and we run into that a lot. By the way, we do not try to tear circuits down. This circuit's not working, I'm going to tear it down and start over. What you're going to find out, it might take you 30 minutes to tear it down and start over, but normally we can find that problem in less than a minute with a meter. Right? And so don't be ashamed, by the way, if you get up there and something happens and I call the whole class over to your station. Because you created a learning experience, right? And so we do open circuits in here all the time. It's learning, right? And it don't count any points, right? You understand? Not unless you say the circuit's working, and there's no way in the world it could work. So that means you didn't understand how the circuit works. But this is the way you troubleshoot. What you need to go is go to those manufacturer numbers, right? You understand? So we check it here, we check it here, we check it here, we check it here, and we check it there. If you check it here and you don't have something, and you check it there and you have something, then it's a what? It's a wiring problem. And we have people that have not said, and it don't pop in their mind. Well, I don't have voltage here, or I have voltage there, but it's connected right. Now, I hear that all the time in this class. It's connected right. It's connected right. But guess what? It wasn't. Take a break. Somebody goes. I'm frozen. So the first lab we'll do is we're going to inventory our trainer, right? And then the second lab we'll do is we're going to. Let's get through this chapter first, and we'll come back and we'll talk about labs, and then we'll go to lab and do the inventory, and then. So everybody okay here? So a lot of people have, when you buy new meters, most of the time they'll come with screw-on alligator clips, right? So those people do is they clip it on the L2 and just move across with the other lead. Most of your new meter leads, by the way, have covers on here that you can take off that only exposes the very tip of the meter lead. Some of them don't have that. Some of the old ones will not have that. So you got a pretty good, probably about 3/4 of an inch at least stuck out there that's bare metal. You got to be real careful about that. And that's why we do one lead. You see people do that all the time. They'll try to do two leads with one hand, and they're trying to change their motor. Anybody ever did that? They're trying to do their meter with the other one. Very dangerous. Well, you're like me. When I was a kid, I never got caught. I always got away. I never got in trouble because I didn't get caught. My son, he couldn't do anything without getting caught. We caught him all the time. That's what I told him. I said, son, you're just one of those people that gets caught. But I'm not even attempt to tell you some of the stuff I did when I was a kid and a teenager. He would say, not you. They're showing this way to check the overload. That's not really what we have to do. All we have to do is L2 and then go here, right?
Across it.
Yeah. And then you're across it. So this was, when a magnetic motor starter overload contact is used in the circuit, these multimeter leads can be connected to L2. Move to the other side of the overload. You could move it here if the overload itself is good, but we usually don't even do that. And what's nice about this is this connection is going to be at one spot. Where's this guy right here going to be at in your control circuit? All over the place. You know, if that's wire 5, if you start looking at some of these big control circuits, you're going to see wire 5 everywhere. You're going to see terminals where you can slip that lead on there all over the place. A good mechanical switch indicates source voltage when open and 0 volts when closed. So even if you got a load right here, understand if you've got an open circuit, there is no current flow in the circuit. To get a voltage drop, it's I times R. So if you've got no flow in the circuit, nothing is dropping a voltage. So where does that? So all those loads and everything are acting like a straight piece of wire, and it's just like those two wires are coming up to that open, right? You understand? And if you measure across the open, you're going to measure the source voltage. So that's what they're trying to tell us. So opens are fairly easy to find. Shorts get a little more complicated. Shorts in a parallel circuit is real hard to find because shorts in a parallel circuit, any short is a short circuit. So it could be anywhere, right? You understand? Opens in a parallel circuit are easy to find. So opens are easy to find. Shorts in a series circuit are pretty easy to find. You just find a device that's not dropping any voltage, right? So you'll have 120 volts on one side and 120 volts on the other. By the way, if you want to check the fuse, so let's say we had a fuse right here. You don't want to do it with power off. And this is what we had to do on that crane box, by the way. We had to check it with voltage. Couldn't check it with an ohm meter because if we checked it with an ohm meter, it broke the fuse. So if I had a fuse right there, and then we came over and we had our black lead right here, or one of our leads right there. If I check it right there, I should have 120 volts or 24 volts. If I move it right here, I have 120 volts, then that fuse is good because it's dropping no voltage, right? So I got 120 volts on one side, 120 volts on the other side. How much is dropped? None. So that's why we had to check that. We had to put the batteries in the box and turn it on, and we'd check on this side of the fuse. If we had 0 volts, on this side of the fuse we had 12 volts. The fuse was bad. And that's why you can do it in your car, by the way. All your fuses, all your car fuses are nice and inserted in there. And, you know, you can pull them out and check them, but you can check it we can check it with a voltmeter. But what you can do is you just find a bare metal spot on your car, hook your black lead there. You go to this side, you measure 12 volts. You go to that side, measure 12 volts. She's good. If you go to this side, measure 0 volts. That side measures 12 volts. She's bad. You don't have to pull it out. Right? And most of you use just a little fuse puller. Those little things are hard to get out. Yeah, but if you look, those flat fuses that they use in vehicles now, they have two. Each side has a little metal tab coming out at the top, and all you got to do is just touch that. If you don't want to do it, just you can put your voltmeter across it, right? If it measures 12 volts, it's bad. If it measures close to 0 volts, either power's not applied or it's good. And that's the problem by checking across it, because there might not be any power there. But if you check it relative to the common of the car, and you measure 0 volts on this side and 0 volts on that side, it means your problem's somewhere else. You know, if you measure 12 volts on this side, if the car's on, it's going to measure about 14 volts, right? If it's running. And 12 volts on this side, then the fuse is good. 0 volts, check we're somewhere else, right? So just because you measure 0 volts across the fuse don't mean it's good. It's good if if the power source is good. So yeah, this meter, voltmeters, the two main meters we use is voltmeters and ohm. Use ohm meters a lot to figure out where wires go, to figure out if we've got an open wire, you know. So how much resistance should a wire have?
If it's solid, nothing.
Well, if it's stranded, it should.
No, not.
Yeah, if it's not open, yeah. We had a circuit card out at US Steel that we didn't have the schematic for, and it wasn't available. So I got the task of developing the schematic with an ohm meter. Thank goodness for beep. So you'd start off and you'd move around till it goes beep, and then you'd connect them together. You end up with a weird drawing, and you start arranging things around. So we ended up with a schematic on that. That's the way I really learned. So I can look at a resistor and I know exactly the value of it. Because one of the jobs I had at U.S. Steel is they had all their resistors in one drawer, and they were all in there together. So when I was a rookie, just got in there, one of my jobs was to sort those resistors.
Oh, man.
Yeah, and then after a while, I looked like that guy in Men in Black 2, sorting the mail. I was throwing those resistors over my back and over my arm. So I can look at a resistor now, and I know that I just pops in my head. With two-wire touch, this is where we have problems, right? This happens a lot. People take these really cheap extension cords and they run them on the rug. People walk across those rugs and they start firing off the insulation. When those two wires touch, we have a lot. Short. If it's out towards the end and the wire has enough resistance in it, it might not blow the fuse.
Burn wire.
Burn wire up, now you got a house fire. This happened to me. I had a dog, and we had of course I have a dog, but the dog collar we had was a chain collar, and I pulled a trailer out from California, and I just wired it in, and those wires were held out there. I had a Vega GT with a hatchback, so you could see all the way in the back, and I was driving along, and my lights got dim, and then they come back up. My lights got dim. We come back up, and everything looked okay, and all of a sudden I noticed something flashing in my rearview mirror, and I looked back at my car. The carpet was on fire. Never blew the breaker, because the chain had enough resistance, so it didn't exceed the rating of the fuse, but it got rid of it. So I jumped out, and I was going to run off and leave my car, and I said, "This is the only car you got rid of." So I come out, popped the hood, and grabbed the carpet, and threw it out. Got burned a little bit, but at least I didn't burn up the car. So I replaced the carpet. I was okay, and I sealed up those wires too. It did burn some of the. I had to redo some wiring because it did burn up some of the conductors. So that guy was actually fused too big. By the way, fuses are normally designed to protect the conductor. When two pieces of wire touch because of damaged insulations, the wire produces a dead short. We call it a short circuit across this circuit. Short circuits or dead shorts are bad. And if the fuses are not sized correctly, and this is notorious in automobiles, where they have a fuse in there that's rated a lot less than the conductors, and that can get you in trouble. Unless we have, so sizing those fuses. So if you got a circuit breaker that pops all the time, and it's like a 20 amp breaker, don't go out and replace it with a 30. Don't understand that. Unfortunately, they slide right in that same slot. There's fit in the same thing. Those things pop right out. You take that cover off, you grab one side, pop them up. They don't screw in. They got a little pin there. It slides in here and it snaps down. The only thing that's really holding in, and don't run them without the cover. If you run them without the cover, those things can become loose because that cover is part of what's holding it, keeping them in there. And people will do that. They go down to Lowe's and say, "Okay, 30 is better than 20."
Or stick a pin.
It's hard to do that with a circuit breaker, but you can do it with a fuse.
I did that on VW Bun. That worked out.
Yeah, people used to use chewing gum paper all the time, aluminum foil, chewing gum paper, and wrap it around fuses, those metal fuses, and pop them down in there. Out of U.S. Steel, there's some places that had welding rods across to where the fuses are from. Yeah, over at Inslee, you ran into that every once in a while. Over on the big cooling beds, they had those jumped out. The dogs we call them dogs, but they were actually flaps. And what they do is that constantly when a new rail would come in, it would push them down toward the end. Those things were interesting too. So yeah, we got over there and saw those fuses jumped out. They wasn't jumped out, they wasn't there. And there's welded rods across there. We have clamp on out meters. Continuity, okay, so continuity is a term we use for low or little or no resistance. So anytime we say we have continuity, that's pretty close to zero. It don't have to be zero. So most new meters have what we call a continuity checker on it, which means it beeps at you when it sees something with little or no resistance. So if you're looking for continuity, instead of you having to look at that meter all the time, if you tell you, some meters you have to select that option by the way. Then that's really great. Because now you're listening to, when you're checking fuses, you're not looking at the meter, you're just going across the fuses, you hear it beep, then it's good. If you're looking at your own meter, continuity is little or no resistance. There's some you see no resistance. In fact, if you come up here and you touch your two meter leads together, usually it shows you a tenth of an ohm. Well, where's that resistance coming from? Meter leads, right? So a lot of people don't do that though. First, that's a good way to tell if your meter's working. What we liked about the old Simpson 260 with an analog meter is that everything, if you check continuity, it means the whole meter was good. The next meter that they brought in there was a digital meter, and you could check continuity, but the voltage section of the meter could be bad. So used to we'd check a meter to see if it was working, we just touch the leads together. But that's not true anymore.
Make sure your leads are good that way.
Yeah, that's about it. And by the way, check that. If you measure 0 volts, you need to get in the habit of doing that too. For one thing, you got different leads down here. You put it on ohms, and you want to check ohms. So ohms and volts runs off the same. Yeah. So most of your handheld meters has 3 sockets in it. You have a common, you have a volt, and you have amps. These clamp-on amp meters only have 2, because what they're trying to do is trying to make the meter common. And what's nice about the meters that have 3 leads is when you go from volts and ohms to amps, you literally got to pull out a lead and move it over somewhere. These leads right here, we have a lot of people that blow fuses, they measure amps, right, you understand, and then they go to volts and they forget to switch their meter over to volts and they blow the fuse in the meter. So we got a lot of. We're not going to do any amp measurements. Your predominant meter is your ohm meter, and your voltmeter. And then the clamp-on is really neat, but clamp-ons normally only work with AC, and they work with high current AC. Of course, you can loop it, right? That was a trick I learned a long time ago. That you can, if you got enough slack, you can loop it. And so if you loop it and you measure twice and you measure 2 amps, it's actually 1 amp. So you just, how many loops you put in there, you just divide your measurement by that. And that way you can get some of those clamp-on amp meters to measure some of the lower AC currents. Not in this class. In a good circuit, a digital multimeter can read the total resistance. So one of the things you're going to do right off the bat is we're going to take power off. Our disconnect's going to do this. You're going to come up here and you're going to put black lead on L2, or it doesn't make any difference. You're going to put your leads across L1, L2. You're going to push in the push buttons, and you should never measure close to 0 ohms. So there's nothing, it's going to measure 200 or 300 ohms or 1,000 ohms because of your loads, right? So if you come up here and make that measurement and you measure real close to 0 ohms, make sure you push in those normally open buttons. Somebody push those in. Then that means you got a short circuit. Now, when I come back and check your circuit, all I'm going to do is check the L2 side. If the L2 side is connected correctly, then we can't have a short circuit, right? So when I come back and do the initial check on your circuit, so it's going to say how the instructor apply power to your circuit, and I'll come back and I'll check L2 to make sure it's connected correctly. That don't mean the circuit's works. It means you don't have a watt. You don't have a discharge. You should have already checked it with your own meter. So that's not checking the circuit. That's just, and then you'll energize. Then we'll energize the circuit. I'll walk away. You determine if the circuit's working correctly or not. It's not me. And then when I come back, right, you understand, and you say it's working and it's not, then that's where you're going to lose points, because that tells me right off the bat that you didn't understand the circuit. When we go over every circuit in class, and I asked if what I asked all that, does anybody have any questions? Is everybody okay? And you sat back there like a knot in the log, texting on your telephone when you're supposed to be listening to the instructor, and then you turn around and fail the test.
Well, I have a question about the procedure we use at USDA. Like, we have like 8 or 10 motors on a roll line running through one cabinet series, and we cut them out.
The motors wasn't in series.
Well, they
were run by the same cabinet.
Yeah. And to check, see if one of them shorted out or bad, to figure out, you know, which cabinet it's in, you put the black lead to the cabinet, the red lead after you turn the power off to the fuses. And they're supposed to read OL, but if one of the fuses came up with numbers, then one of the motors in there were short.
Could be, or has low resistance, yeah.
That's how we want to do it. So that's.
Well, it depends on what it is. There's a lot of, so y'all was running a grounded L2. So when you hooked it up the cabinet, that was actually L2. So that's good.
Where I see it says it's near zero.
Well, you don't have a short. What you have is you have a resistance that's not supposed to be there. Does that make sense? So those were not really shorted. To be shorted, they would have kicked something, right? They would have kicked the overload.
That's what they'd be kicking the drive upstairs.
Oh, so these are SCR drives, yeah.
They'd be kicking the drives upstairs.
Well, I don't know how that worked. I need to, because you were reading through the drive, and that's very uncommon that you would.
Well, you have to turn it off.
No, but you're still reading through the drive.
Oh, really?
So that would be interesting to see how that worked. Well, did it work?
Yeah, it worked fine. Anything you want cabinets in, then you start going through.
Well, yeah, that's the right procedure. So there's something going on that I don't understand. Because between the fuses and the motor, you have some type of drive, and it's got tons of electronics in there. Mm-hmm. And if that sucker don't have power on it, then those big devices that fire those things, it would be to me hard to read through. But it doesn't make it depends on how it's wired. So I'd have to see the actual diagrams.
They work fine. Then you go to your individual.
Yeah, well, that's a procedure. They probably got that from the company, and so they might have had something in there. They might have had a resistor that went across the drive, so it would give you that feature. So to understand exactly what was going on there, we would definitely have to see the.
I know they got mad when he hooked their motor up. It didn't isolate.
Huh?
They got a little bit evil when he hooked the motor up. It didn't isolate.
Okay, so these, let's go. What we're going to do now is go over the lab procedures. Show you how you're going to be graded, what labs in the lab book we're going to do, what labs we're not going to do.